I'm Matt McClure, and this is Currents. Demand is up and supplies are down. A local food pantry sends out an SOS.
Around this time of the year, people are ready to give, which is so appreciated. But even with that, I'm going to say that it's not where it was, say, 2 years ago.
Plus, a Queens-based group is fighting human trafficking and providing victims with a safe environment. We'll show you how you can help out this holiday season. And celebrating the timeless story of Our Lady of Guadalupe with the premiere of a modern opera. Well, good evening. Thanks so much for joining us tonight. According to the latest numbers, close to 1.5 million New Yorkers are living without enough food, including 1 out of every 5 children. And with the economy still struggling to get back on its feet, more and more families are struggling to put food on the table. The financial uncertainty is also impacting food pantries, which don't have enough supplies to meet their demands. We visited a local Catholic Charities food pantry in Bay Ridge to get a first-hand look at what they and the people they serve are now facing.
We're in need of food supplies for our food pantries throughout Brooklyn and Queens. We faced large funding cuts, and we're facing larger volumes of community members or clients coming into our centers. We have a high volume of community members seeking food pantry services. We're unable to supply families with the amount of food that they're in need of to supplement their household supply of food, and so potentially more families are going hungry as a result.
Lately, we've just had such an onslaught of just more families. It's to the point now where we had to cut back. Before we was a once a month food pantry, but now we're once every other month. That is because the food was just going off the shelves way too fast. And we've had days where we've just been able to give away like maybe green beans and soup.
A lot of people are hungry right now, and the need is getting higher. So a lot of people are losing their jobs, they have no work, and they come to the food pantry.
I would say since the spring, we've doubled and tripled in numbers, and compared to the same time last year, we've seen anywhere from a 12% to a 30% increase in individuals or heads of households seeking food pantry services.
It's never been a time where we could say, okay, there's 1 week that goes by that we don't get new families. So we get new families every single week. So it's not just the families we have, it's the new families also. So it's getting really tight here for us.
We are one of the largest distribution sites of our food pantry network in Brooklyn and Queens, and as you can see, our pantries are pretty bare. We're in need of more donations. At this point, our funding sources are not able to supply us with the amount that we're in need of to serve the community, so we're looking for donations of non-perishable food items or monetary donations that people may be willing to give to support our pantries.
You know, whatever canned foods they might have, leftovers in the cupboard that they don't use, that whatever people could donate, it will be greatly appreciated.
Around this time of the year, people are ready to give, which is so appreciated. But even with that, I'm going to say that it's not where it was, say, 2 years ago.
It's already at the point of desperation in the sense that what we normally would be able to supply has been cut by 2/3. So, for example, we're serving, regardless of family size, a bag of food for a single person. So a family of 5 comes in, we're still providing food for 3 days only for 1 person. And that won't be able to last much longer.
If they shut it down, I don't know what I would do.
There's so many people in the community like myself that needs Catholic Charity.
We're going to have to turn people away, and we really don't want to do that. We've never done that, but we also never had to cut back on giving food every month.
So we're looking at maybe a month, maybe 2 months more with the supplies that we have going at that same pace. And our funding is supposed to last us till June. This is a basic need, and so regardless of what other services we're able to provide, if we don't have food, that's people going hungry.
Catholic Charities of Brooklyn and Queens operates 21 food pantries, 18 of them located at parishes in the 2 boroughs. For more information on that and on what you can do to help, visit our blog, Go to currentsny.net, click on Riding the Wave when you get there. Well, there's more currents ahead. The nation's highest court will decide on what may be the country's most controversial immigration law. We'll have that story and the rest of the day's headlines next. Welcome back to Currents. I'm Matt McClure. Coming up later on the Feast of Our Lady of Guadalupe, that story set to music. First, though, let's have a look at the day's headlines. The Supreme Court says it will decide whether Arizona can enforce its controversial immigration law. A federal court blocked some provisions of the law, including the one that has arguably garnered the most controversy. Local police officers would be required to check the immigration status of suspects they believe are in the U.S. illegally. The Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals ruled the law oversteps the state's bounds and invades on the federal government's exclusive role in immigration enforcement. Arizona argued that illegal immigration was creating financial hardships and safety concerns for its residents. U.S. bishops, meantime, called the law draconian, saying it would lead to the rise in fear and distrust in immigrant communities. Well, meanwhile, the Vatican spokesman, Father Federico Lombardi, discussed the plight of migrants in an editorial for Vatican Radio. Lombardi said the economic crisis does not diminish the problems of migration, but only worsens them. He said the flow of men and women looking for better opportunities, including in places like Arizona, would only continue. Lombardi says we must give migrants the opportunity to live and thrive and work with them to build a common future. He also touted the Vatican being granted full member status in the International Organization for Migration in Geneva. Shameful. That is what the chairman of the U.S. Commission on International Religious Freedom says about Congress's repeated failure to reauthorize the commission. Leonard Leo told the Catholic news agency that failure to act would send a message to the international community that religious freedom is not a high priority in U.S. foreign policy, and the results, he said, could be catastrophic. Funding for the commission expired in September, but has repeatedly been given brief extensions. The current extension is set to expire on Friday. Pope Benedict will visit Mexico and Cuba next year.
Sostenido por el auxilio de la providencia divina, tengo la intención de emprender un viaje apostólico antes de la Santa Pascua a México y Cuba para proclamar allí la palabra de Cristo y se afiance la convicción de que este es un tiempo precioso para evangelizar con una fe recia, una experiencia viva, una caridad ardiente.
Pope Benedict there announced the upcoming trips on the Feast of Our Lady of Guadalupe. His trip to Cuba will be the first time that a pope has traveled there since John Paul II visited the communist country back in 1998. And Pope Benedict shared a message of life and some advice also for Advent to pilgrims gathered in St. Peter's Square yesterday. Rome Reports has those details.
During the Angelus in St. Peter's Square, Benedict XVI recalled the 63rd anniversary of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, of which he highlighted the right to life.
Nell'anniversario della Dichiarazione Universale dei Diritti dell'Uomo ricordiamo che il primo fra tutti I diritti è quello alla vita.
The Pope also called on Christians to not become overly distracted by the lights and commercial side of Christmas, but instead to give true value to these festivities.
L'ambiente esterno propone I consueti messaggi di tipo commerciale, anche se fosse in tono minore a causa della crisi economica. Il cristiano è invitato a vivere l'Avvento senza lasciarsi distrarre dalle luci, ma sapendo dare il giusto valore alle cose per fissare lo sguardo interiore a Cristo.
The Angelus marked the third Sunday of Advent, called Gaudet, meaning joy. Benedict XVI made an invitation to prepare for Christmas with the joy the season brings. He noted that true happiness is not just a passing moment, but is born from an encounter with Jesus.
La liturgia de hoy, el llamado Domingo Gaudete, nos invita a prepararnos con la oración y las buenas obras, a celebrar con gozo la llegada de Jesús entre nosotros.
And following Christmas tradition, thousands of children carried a figure of the baby Jesus to be blessed by the Pope and later placed in their own nativity scenes.
An American cardinal who was an institution at the Vatican for more than 25 years has died. Cardinal John Foley, a native of the Philadelphia area, died yesterday after battling leukemia. He was 76 years old. Cardinal Foley may have been best known to American television viewers as the commentator on the broadcast of Midnight Mass from St. Peter's Basilica in Rome. Pope John Paul called Foley to Rome to be president of the Pontifical Council for Social Communications in 1984. That's a position he served in until 2007, when Foley was named the Grand Master of the Knights of the Holy Sepulchre. He also served in several capacities in the Archdiocese of Philadelphia. Now, in a telegram to Philadelphia Archbishop Charles Chaput, Pope Benedict expressed his heartfelt condolences on the death of Cardinal Foley. Well, meanwhile, Archbishop Chaput has his own message for Catholics in Philadelphia. In a pastoral letter, Chaput says the Archdiocese will face very serious financial and organizational issues in 2012. He says it's likely that some and perhaps many schools must close or combine. Chaput also says the church has an obligation to help victims who've been sexually abused by clergy. He says cases involving priests placed on administrative leave earlier this year will wrap up in the first months of 2012. An American nun is one step closer to sainthood. A medical board says a healing attributed to the intercession of Blessed Mary Ann Cope was a miracle. Cope was born in Germany in 1838 and brought to the U.S. when she was an infant. She entered the Sisters of St. Francis and eventually went on to Hawaii, where she cared for leprosy patients. Sister Cope died of natural causes in 1918. All that's needed for her canonization is the approval of Pope Benedict. And a Michigan man says he will pay for an item he stole 30 years ago. Reporter Roger Weber has the story.
It's 2 weeks and 2 days before Christmas. Lots of money and merchandise are changing hands here in Howell. Country Squire Fireplace and Lighting can claim the strangest transaction 30 years in the making. The letter arrived last Friday.
When I opened up the letter, the money fell out first, and I just assumed it was like a deposit for something they wanted to order. 2 crisp $100 bills.
It was signed Remorseful. 30 years ago, the writer needed a glass fireplace door, couldn't afford it, but saw an opportunity when the salesperson helped another customer.
I'm sorry to say that I took that glass door and left.
The item would have been tough to shoplift.
If it was a typical glass door, the box would be about the size of a large picture.
He or she mentioned a recent story about a man in Seattle who repaid money he stole from a Sears cash register 60 years ago.
This jogged my memory of what I did 30 years ago, so I'm doing the same.
So one inner voice rekindled another. The door cost $100 back then, but the shoplifter sent $200 to cover interest. The money will go to charity.
Thinking about it, I just thought, everything that maybe I've done or anybody I know has done that we might regret over the years comes back to haunt you.
Roger Weber with that story. Stay with us, there's more currents ahead. Coming up, has that Kindle left you cold? That game of Angry Birds not giving you Christmas cheer? Well, we'll show you an alternative gift that could make the world of difference for women in need. Welcome back. Well, there are less than 13 shopping days left until Christmas. Man, time just flies, doesn't it? And as those days get fewer and fewer, it will mean more and more shoppers crowding into the stores. And while you may be looking for the special gift on the wish lists of your friends and loved ones, maybe that new CD, DVD, Blu-ray, maybe even an iPhone, there may be some gifts out there that you might not have thought about giving. And tonight we begin a series on alternative gifts for this Christmas season. And first up in the series is an easy way that you can help provide a safe, welcoming environment for people when they need it the most. Well, you know, when you think about slavery, you probably think about the Civil War or other dark times in America's past. But there's a modern day form of slavery happening every day right under our noses, and many of us don't even know about it. It's human trafficking. Lifeway Network, which is located in Forest Hills, Queens, and operated by the Sisters of Charity, is one group that's trying to put an end to the practice, and they're providing a safe place for the victims in the meantime. Well, joining me now to talk more about Lifeway and its wish list is the organization's executive director, Sister Joan Dauber. Sister, thanks so much for being here.
My pleasure indeed.
And this is something I think that people, as I mentioned there, think about when they think about slavery or any type of activity related to it. They think about, oh, well, that was something that happened a long time ago.
Yes.
That doesn't happen anymore, but that's really not the case.
No, it really isn't the case. And slavery, we know, has been with us a long time, and then the emancipation, slavery was over and done with and finished, and we think it's gone and it's done. But there are about 17,000 people that come into the United States every year as victims of human trafficking. Wow. So it's a huge, huge concern. And New York City, being one of the large, you know, it has the big airports. JFK is a large airport that receives many victims of human trafficking. And that's the foreign-born people who come into the United States. Also in the United States, there is a large number of young people who are domestically trafficked every year. So it's a very big concern.
It's amazing and tragic at the same time, because you think that it's all over and done with, but it's really, really not. And as you said, a lot of these victims find their way into the New York area, and that's kind of where Lifeway Network comes in, at least here, based in Forest Hills, as we said.
Yes.
What are some of the things that your organization does to kind of, you know, put an end to this and or, you know, in the meantime, help these victims out so that they have a safe place to go?
Right. We started just to kind of go back, and Sisters of Charity did found Lifeway Network with myself as executive director, but there are 30 religious congregations all working together on this one issue. So we're collaborating in wonderful ways with religious sisters and brothers and priests. So it's a great organization. And we've worked very hard to get a safe house to really shelter these victims of trafficking. And we're delighted that we're now just about to open the doors of the safe house. But we have this great need to provide all the things that you would want in a house to make it a welcoming and a home. So that's what we're doing. And we also do education for the general public. You know, we did something recently for the Catholic Women's Association, and that was a great thing. And since then, I've been able to go out and give talks in parishes and to different people. So
educate people about exactly what this issue is, and like I say, I mean, and this is something where, especially in New York, I think because there are so many. So much goes on in the city, and there's so much that can happen right under your nose and you not even know.
That's right. I mean, you go for a manicure, and for the women who do that, and you know, you don't know that that person is a person that has been enslaved, or it could be somebody who is working in a restaurant. They can be enslaved in a restaurant. Somebody who is working as in your garden or in somebody else's garden, that again could be one of those things. So no, you don't know. It's hidden and it's in plain sight. So you don't know what's happening.
You never know who it might be or where they might come from or where they might be. It's absolutely amazing. Right. Now, we were talking a little bit about the safe house a moment ago, and you were mentioning the fact that you need to kind of stock up on a lot of things at this safe house. Now, that is kind of where this alternative sort of gift-giving thing comes in for the Christmas season here. And as we move closer to the holiday, how can people help out by maybe going online and giving a gift for these people who really, really need a safe place to call home for a little while?
Yeah, terrific. Thank you. Yes, we're providing this housing for women, And we're looking for things like, we actually have gone to Target, and Target is going to help us, or we've got a registry at Target. So you could go on to our website, which is www.lifewaynetwork.org, and there is a link there on the Target, and you can then purchase items for the Safe House, bedding, dishes, all kinds of things. We go from $4.99 to $4.49, so it's in anybody's price range.
That's right. I was going to say, I mean, there's something at every price point.
That's right.
I was looking at the list earlier, and I was like, oh, there's stuff on here that people can actually afford, and there are.
Really
Anybody can really.
Yeah, a spoon right to a television set.
Absolutely. So that's it. That
right.
fits into anybody's budget.
Yeah.
So the website, once again, lifewaynetwork.org.
Right.
And that's where people can go find out more information about not only the Safe House and the wish list at Target, but also about the organization and how they can help not only now but year round.
That's right, exactly.
All right, well, wonderful. Well, Sister Joan Dauber, thank you so much for coming in and talking about it. We really appreciate your time very much.
It's certainly been my pleasure. Thank you.
Well, stay with us. There's much more Currents ahead. When we return, the unique sound of a modern-day opera fills the air for Our Lady of Roses.
It's a piece that is full of emotions, and it really, in beautiful musical terms, shows us the miracle that happened in Guadalupe.
Well, finally tonight, it is the Feast of Our Lady of Guadalupe, or Guadalupe if you prefer, and Latino bishops of the United States took it as an opportunity to send an open letter to immigrants here in this country, those who are authorized and those who are undocumented. In the letter, the bishops thank the immigrants for the Christian values they manifest. The bishops say immigrants are a revitalizing force for our country, and they say the U.S. needs to update its immigration laws. Brooklyn Auxiliary Bishop Octavio Cisneros is among the bishops who signed the letter, which we've posted over on our blog. To read it, go to currentsny.net and click on Riding the Wave. And as we wrap up on this Feast of Our Lady of Guadalupe, it's a retelling of that story in music. Last year, the parish of Our Lady of Guadalupe here in Brooklyn hosted a performance of a unique new opera.
Tonight we are having our first performance of an opera dedicated to Our Lady of Guadalupe, Our Lady of the Roses. Our Blessed Mother appeared to St. Juan Diego in the 1600s and asked for a church to be built. The bishop said to him, "I need a sign." And so Juan Diego went back to Our Blessed Mother, and she said, "Go back to the bishop." And when he went back to the bishop, he unfolded his tilde, and some way miraculously on the cloth, this image. The image of Our Lady of Guadalupe, which is so famous now, seen everywhere, and roses fell from the tilde.
This is a contemporary opera. This is was written for concert performance so that there is a narrator that walks you through the scenes. It's very stylistic. It's a combination. Charles Ives, Aaron Copland. It's a very interesting blend. It's very interesting with lots and lots of orchestral color added by saxophone, something you don't usually see in an orchestra, saxophone, and plenty of percussion instruments. There were 30 percussion instruments in the score.
Phil Nuzzo had the idea that it would be very nice to incorporate the parish school children, the top singers of the parish school children, to come and give a childlike narration to the opera.
Oh, it's wonderful. I mean, it's so poignant to have it here at the Guadalupe Church in Brooklyn, and it's a piece that is full of emotions, and it really, in beautiful musical terms, shows us the miracle that happened in Guadalupe.
To have an opera that is sort of an uplifting, devotional Catholic opera, I don't think I've ever seen that before. I mean, usually you see it, Catholicism in opera, but not usually one that's really uplifting it.
Do you understand me, Juan Diego?
The whole story is very much a story of humility. The music is actually very humble music. It's difficult, it's colorful, but it's very humble music. I think the composer gets this across. Juan Diego's humility is clearly evident in the score. And as a Catholic, it's of course nice to use this as an evangelization tool.
Absolutely beautiful piece of music. Well, that is it for this edition of Currents. Now be sure and visit us online at currentsny.net. You can also connect with us on Facebook. Follow us on Twitter as well. Maybe you have a question for us, though, or maybe a comment or a story idea. Email it to us if that's the case. The address is dropusaline@currentsny.net. For all of us here at Currents, I'm Matt McClure. Thanks so much for watching. Have a great night.